Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. I am Sherrilyn and I am so glad you found me. If you're not new here, welcome back. Thank you for joining me every single upload. I love and I appreciate you so much. You guys, we have so much to talk about today. This is why I don't like covering things that are just like happening in real time. Because I know better. I knew better. There's always, three sides to the story, right? Yours, theirs, the truth. Anyways, we're gonna get into it. Before we do, let's do our riddle, okay? Today's riddle is, what has one head, 1 foot, and 4 legs? This is one of those ones where I felt like maybe we did it a really long time ago, but I still didn't know the answer. So I was just like, I feel like I would have also remembered the answer, but also probably not. So if we did do it prior in the past, sorry about that. But, third time's a charm for me over here to finally get one, I guess. Am I right? Okay. While you think about that, I have a quick message for you from our sponsor. Thank you to our sponsor today, Fume. We love Fume over here. that is no secret. So thankful just for them in general, but also for their continued support on the channel. If you've never heard of Fume before, it is an innovative, award-winning device that helps make the transition of breaking bad habits like a lot less stressful and easier to attain. For anyone new or who has not seen or purchased a Fume before, it is not a vape. Seen that misconception? Always got to go hard for that. There is no vapor. The core that is in there has natural flavor in it. You draw the flavor to your mouth. You're not inhaling vapor or smoke or harmful chemicals. It's like the movement and getting the satisfaction of that flavor in your mouth. Nothing going to your lungs. Fume also continuously invests in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products and are backed by doctors in the US. They also continuously have their customers in mind with how the device can be used. I always have to talk about this, like to make it even more useful. To me, it moonlights as a satisfying fidget device. I've said this before, I will say it again. I do not fly without it. I like to channel like my anxiousness in it and just like have something comforting to distract me. The device itself makes clicking noises. It's got magnetic components. They also have now added the base. Well, they did that like last year, that I love. It's essentially the base for your Fume, but it's got like a lot of, to me, I refer to it as like comfort weight. I still don't know how to explain it, but I guess it's like a weighted blanket. I guess there's something about weight that clearly must be comfort to people because it totally works. Like holding something, I guess it's like maybe grounding. Is that what that is? Maybe that makes sense. Anyways, I love it. They've also just added the topper, which is a little rubber topper to just like make it softer on that mouthpiece. I also kind of like to chew on it a little bit. If you want to check them out or if you want to help somebody build better habits, you can head to tryfume.com/sherrilyndale and use my code sherrilyndale to get a free Fume topper when you order your journey pack today. Once again, that's tryfume.com/sherrilyndale, or just scan the QR code on the screen and grab yours today. Thank you again so much, Fume, for your continued support on the channel. All right, like I said, we have a lot to catch up today, okay? I think the best way that I can provide a response in terms of like the view that I had on the last video, like involving this whole Justin Baldoni Blake Lively situation, is this.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
So as you know, I see comments every single day. Girl, are you gonna reply or no? So are we just gonna leave this or no? I wish I could, okay? I held off making a follow-up because I knew so much more was coming out after Baldoni and Company. We're just gonna call it like Justin Baldoni and Company. Did I just call him Baldoni? Justin Baldoni and Company sued the New York Times for their expose. And honestly, like I can't even keep up. Like there is something new every single day. So I'm gonna do my best to update all of us thus far. I don't wanna turn into like a Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni newsfeed, like bless her soul, the one interviewer who of course, you were so right, girl, and valid in feeling like Blake was horrible to you in that interview, but now it's like her whole identity, and it's like, girl, she's getting bagged though, so I feel like that's like her redemption, because the views on the videos and she posts like every single day, I'm like, oh, okay. you're never going to go back to interviewing anybody again until this is all done, probably. Anyways, bear with me. I'm going to do this follow-up. I know that there's going to be like a lot more, but I just don't want to like every single day be having like updates and stuff like that. But you know, I'm pretty confident that once we get to trial or like learn more about like that whole aspect, if more comes out, if they're gonna settle, which spoiler alert, Blake girl, you gotta jump ship. You have got to jump ship, okay? Anyways, if something like that happens, then you know, maybe I'll make a comment or whatever. Or if like shit goes like crazy and we like get a lot more evidence from the other side, which like they had their shot, and with the rebuttal, I don't know. Okay, when I left you last, Blake had filed the complaint against Justin Baldoni, his Wayfarer team, and then other individuals she believed were complicit in a smear campaign to destroy her career. If you haven't seen that video, I'll have it linked based on the comments. I know that probably anybody here watching is because you're gonna want, like, you're here to hear my response based on my position in that video, which clearly was, listen, the expose, like that, we weren't wrong here. Okay, I'm gonna make everybody feel good. This is probably just a pep talk for me as well. But we weren't wrong in feeling the way that we were, because we took the New York Times as like a pretty reputable journalistic, you know, source. And they had, it seemed like they had receipts, right? Like, so we were able to see and read for ourselves. And from there, that's where we came to that conclusion of you know, like, believing Blake. So yeah, now we have even more receipts and like things that were left off. And I'm just so disappointed. I'm so disappointed. I have so many questions. This is going to be a long episode. Thank you for those who are going to hang out and just chill with me and let me just kind of pop off a bit here. I have thoughts. And why? Did she provide like everything to the New York Times, or was it that cherry picked stuff? Because we know now that a lot of this evidence was cherry picked and they left out a lot of context, like even between messages, and like kind of like made it look like it was like that message in its entirety. So when we left off, there was that. Then Justin Baldoni and his team filed a lawsuit against the New York Times for that smear campaign. At this point, they hadn't filed against Blake, which was part of the reason why I'm holding off, because they referenced her so much in it that I was like, this is definitely strategic. Like, there is something big coming for her. So we've got so many different lawsuits going on here. I'm just gonna like touch on them as we're like going, and it's kind of like gonna interweave here. Once again, thank you guys for staying with me. I've got my handy dandy laptop with me too, so that I can like read through, you know, more cohesively, just like some of the evidence here. But Justin Baldoni and company, they are pissed, basically insinuating that Blake Lively and the New York Times cherry picked and altered the communications that were in that expose, stripped it of its necessary context, and then deliberately spliced it to mislead the reader, which, after looking at what they provided as evidence to support that, you're not wrong. They feel like this is was an orchestrated hit piece to paint them as the villains and try to salvage or help salvage Blake Lively's career. And part of that also was even just like the delivery of how this all kind of unfolded. So Justin Baldoni and his team were made aware that this piece was coming, but it was like a 14-hour notice, and this was like overnight also. Like, I think it was like at the end of the day, so like part of that 14 hours was like overnight, and they wanted this like on the record comment, which when you look at that piece with everything that they had in there, like, you're not going to be able to come up with something that fast to go through it and then like adequately account for like every inaccuracy. So they felt like that was very much intentional, to be like, oh, we reached out, we didn't hear anything, and we're just going forward with this piece. Again, like, I do not know what they were thinking if they had everything that we are now going to see. I don't get it. All right, so let's go through some of those court documents just to give some examples, and then we are going to pivot over and get into like the latest update, which is those same individuals, Justin Baldoni and company is what I'm calling them right now, are also now suing Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and their manager, Leslie Sloan, for $400 million. So in terms of the New York Times lawsuit, basically the same thing that I just said. Like, if you had all of these documents, like, how are we like standing on business with what you said? So despite its claim to have reviewed these along with other documents, the Times relied almost entirely on Lively's unverified and self-serving narrative, lifting it nearly verbatim while disregarding an abundance of evidence that contradicted her claims and exposed her true motives. Notably, Lively chose not to file a lawsuit against Baldoni, Wayfarer, or any of the plaintiffs, a choice that spared her from the scrutiny of the discovery process, including answering questions under oath and producing her communications. This decision was no accident. First, her administrative complaint is rife with blatant falsehoods and egregious misrepresentations. It would have subjected her to dismissal, if not sanctions. So they're basically saying that the way she filed was intentional. I have seen lawyers like weigh in and say that this isn't uncommon. I have no freaking idea, but pursuing formal legal action would have derailed her true objective, an orchestrated campaign to rehabilitate her public image. Instead, Lively filed a request for a right to sue letter with the California Civil Rights Department. A procedural formality that does not require pleadings, remains confidential unless leaked, as it was here, and crucially does not subject the complainant to discovery. But this is so interesting because it's like, yeah, okay, but you made, I don't even know how many times I'm going to say this video, but like, what were you thinking, Blake? And New York Times, like, what were you thinking? Even this process, like, you just thought like, oh, everybody, like, with the full context that we weren't getting, they weren't going to actually show us and then bring us back to reality. I'm so confused, especially when you're having like any sort of filing done with the legal system. These were seriously heavy accusations. So then they provide a lot of that evidence where it's also showing the text messages between Justin Baldoni and his team, but gives further context. So in these messages, and I'll have them on the screen for you guys to see, Justin Baldoni is like repeatedly saying, as he's seeing these articles come up, like, how can we stay on top of this? Like, I want to make sure that everybody knows, like, we have no part in this. And he's asking too, he's like, did your guys' team, like the PR team, Melissa Nathans that he hired, have anything to do with this? She's like, no, this is all their undoing. Like, they are doing this themselves. He's asking about bots being like, okay, like, I actually had this one comment sticking up for me, but I don't like it. I think like the way that they went hard. And when he looked at that, like, he went and looked at that follower or that commenter, and they had like no followers or something like that. It was like a new account. So he's like, this looks like a bot, and this looks like we are intentionally doing this. And he's like, just please monitor. In another one of these interactions between like the tag team, that's the crisis management that they had hired, there's an article shared that says, like, it ends with us. Sony chief praises Blake Lively for advancing the conversation around domestic violence. And then there's from Justin's team, like, they messaged me 5 minutes before this went up. And Jamie Heath, who is also named in the lawsuit, who is Justin Baldoni's partner, said in response to that article, so glad Blake was praised, let her get a win. It would be nice to have a Sony executive praise Justin. And we'll see that, because every turn it seemed like no matter what Justin Baldoni was trying to do to like kind of just like keep the flow and keep the peace and keep everybody happy, everybody pretty much being Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, allegedly in my opinion, like, he wasn't supported in like the times that it was getting taken too far. Everyone else would, like, especially like Sony, they were just like, okay, well, we got to keep Blake happy because we can get Taylor Swift on this for the song. Literally, there's a text about that, like multiple texts about Taylor Swift. And them just kind of basically being like, yeah, you know what, Justin, it's going to be fine. We know you're the director and bought the rights and everything to this, but you know what? We got Taylor Swift if we keep Blake Lively here. The lawsuit goes on to say the article references text exchanges between Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel. So Melissa Nathan, Crisis PR, Jennifer Abel, who was working with Justin Waver directly, as purported evidence that Nathan planted a negative story in the Daily Mail titled, "Is Blake Lively Set to Be Cancelled?" Lively's portrayal is categorically false, misleading, and devoid of factual basis, yet knowingly endorsed by the Times, which claimed to have reviewed thousands of pages of text messages and emails. See, that's important because they did say that. So that's why I'm like, they really can't even go back on being like, oh, we were cherry fed information from Blake Lively and her team, because it seems like they would have got everything, and they insinuated that they did. Like, the only way of like out of this would be if they actually had evidence that Blake and her team sent those edited versions like of the communication. But I don't know, like saying like we've reviewed thousands and thousands, and like you admitted that, and then you're like, oh my god, oh, okay, this is why we'll see it so bad. The smear campaign hinges on a August 16th text exchange in which Nathan allegedly shared a link to this article with Abel. The text exchange shows Abel responding, "Wow," followed by, "You really outdid yourself with this one." To which Nathan allegedly replied, "That's why you hired me, right? I'm the best." These messages constitute the entirety of the purported evidence underlying the allegation of a smear campaign orchestrated on behalf of Baldoni. Yes, this exchange was like, I was heated in my video about this one, where it says like, "That's why you hired me, right?" But we find out they included those parts of the text message. I'll have them for you guys to view here. And then there's a whole part that's excluded that was not in the Times article. Also missing was a emoji, which I think is so funny to see in a lawsuit, but totally makes sense. So it says, "Further evidence of the Times complicity arises from its apparent endorsement of the criminal alteration of these text messages by Lively. After Nathan forwarded a screenshot of the article link, Abel responded with, 'You really outdid yourself in this piece.'" And then there's right beside it is the emoji with the upside down smiley face. So they're saying adding that upside down smiley face indicates the sarcastic nature of the message. This emoji is commonly, they're talking about emojis. This emoji is commonly used to convey irony, sarcasm, joking, or a sense of goofiness or silliness. This omitted context is critical, and it demonstrates that each subsequent message in the exchange was similarly intended as sarcasm, including Nathan's statement, "That's why you hired me, right? I'm the best." So they're saying that was like, oh, like they saw it, she's, sarcastically being like, "Oh, you really outdid yourself with this one," knowing that she had nothing to do with it. I do agree that emoji is very telling. They also showed another example of one of the texts that was included that, again, I was also like, holy Hannah, this looks horrible. Jennifer Abel says, "Oh my God, yes, you will die." And then Melissa Nathan says, "He doesn't realize how lucky he is right now. We need to press him on how forking lucky." She says the other way. The whispering in the ear, the sexual connotations like Jesus effing Christ, other members feeling uncomfortable watching it. I mean, there's just so much. Doesn't matter if it's not true. So that part was excluded right after she says that, like, doesn't matter if it's not true. And then Jennifer Abel says, "I know, I don't think they get that. They think the truth wins." She says, "No, it doesn't." And then Jennifer Abel says, and I'm like, "We are dealing with a psychopath who literally called you a sexual predator. Let's all be happy with difficult." So when they're referring to like that whole part of like the whispering in the ear, the sexual connotations, they're saying doesn't matter if it's not true. Like they're seeing it from like the PR standpoint, being like, we don't believe that he did these things to her. But if that were to be like the narrative that got out, that's what's going to get picked up. I mean, obviously they, in hindsight, knew what was like what could potentially happen. And then they're like, people think the truth wins. She's like, no, it doesn't. It would be like whatever people pick up on and believe. And so then Jennifer saying, I'm like, we're dealing with a psychopath who literally called you a sexual predator. Let's all be happy with difficult. So that's in reference to the articles and stuff like that were coming out saying that Blake Lively was difficult to work with on set. And then Justin being worried about like how that was looking and all of like the negativity it was getting, and then thinking, not wanting them to think that they had anything to do with it. And so they're like, you know what? Like if that's what's getting said right now, like take it. This is a win. Because this is what she's accusing you of. And even if it's not true, if that gets picked up, this is horrible. Like this is best case scenario right now. So that's kind of what that seems like that text is insinuating there. This lawsuit goes on to say, far from being the product of calculated smear campaign by plaintiffs, the backlash against Lively was inevitable fallout of her own tone-deaf messaging and self-promotional tactics, amplified by her inability to read the room in addressing such a serious topic. Yeah, I mean, looking back, it's not good. Again, there's more text messages that just show Justin Baldoni. He's sharing like a TikTok. I think this one's from Perez Hilton. This is actually kind of hilarious because he's like, this is not correct, right? Assuming the guy we brought in would never do this. And I think that's where they're talking about Judd Wallace, who is like they were saying like in the Twitter forums and stuff like that. And then Melissa Nathan's like, none of us would ever do this. Also, no one even pays attention to this person past 2005. She's talking about Perez Hilton. It's not. He's not relevant. He does not create a news headline. He does not get picked up. He is just now a troll. There's not one outlet that would ever cover anything he said or take it seriously. I think as well, there is this struggle where it's kind of maybe even unbelievable the way that people are turning against her, but they are organically. It's organic. She's blown herself up by her own actions. And then the lawsuit supports that by showing how at screenings she was, or not screenings, but like during the press junket, she was promoting her hair care line and her alcohol line, talking about the florals, focusing on the florals. We did talk about how in the press junket outline, how Sony did want this marketed. We did see that they did want it to be like more hopeful and lighthearted, and to kind of not avoid, but like steer away in like the most positive way that you could if there was like heavy topics of domestic violence brought up. I don't know my exact wording in that. I don't want it. I could have even said like that was her contract. I mean, there are contracts with those things. Like I said, even like for an influencer, I still like, even if it's not like a legal contract, you know, law, like a lawsuit, if I don't do this like specifically, it's like a loose guideline. You don't have to like follow it to the T. And I don't know, like she definitely went with their suggestions, but Justin Baldoni's team did make a point of saying, and he always apparently did. We've seen emails going back like from the first time he even emailed Colleen Hoover, you know, talking about wanting to pick this story up, make a movie from this book because of the heaviness of the topic and how important like he thought that it would be to kind of like give hope to anybody that was in this situation. And he all around has definitely wanted to focus on that. Now I see that. Sorry. Again, I'm never covering something ongoing or like currently going on again. Apologies. So when I now look at that press junket thing with a different lens and about her focusing more like on the positive and stuff like that, I did think that I'm like, why didn't I even think about the way that she was talking about her character line and her alcohol line and stuff like that? Because that was not in the, you know, the press outline that Sony wanted them to follow. So yeah, I don't know what glasses I was wearing when I just bought everything hook, line, and sinker and went hard. So the lawsuit goes on to say the article also deliberately ignored that Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan of Vision PR, once backed by Harvey Weinstein, seeded stories critical of Baldoni, including that Baldoni was a sexual predator. Ahead of the film's release, Sloan did so even while Nathan attempted to cooperate in good faith. So Melissa Nathan, Crisis PR, hired by Justin Baldoni, and Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively's PR, they communicated. So we had like their communications, and initially they agreed. Like Leslie was like, I'm not planting anything. Like, I hope you guys aren't. Melissa's like, we wouldn't do that. You know, like, let me know. Let's keep in contact. Even if you're speaking to like a certain journalist, let me know so that either I can reach out or like give a statement on this side. And we can just try to like diffuse the situation as much as possible, which Leslie was like, yeah, absolutely, or seemed like she was going to say that. And then they show a text message exchange from Leslie Sloan to a guy named James who works for the Daily Mail. And he's like asking for a statement, and she just goes rogue. And she's like, the whole cast doesn't like Justin, nothing to do with Blake. She goes on saying like, he's like, well, you know, like I have a few people that are saying this to me. She's like, I'm telling you, she's a liar. They're panicking and the whole cast hates him. So she's just going rogue, speaking on behalf of everybody, obviously taking the side for she would have been heard and fed from Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. So James screenshots this, like her saying that, and sends it to Melissa Nathan. And Melissa's like, what the hell, bro? Like, I thought we were working on this together. He says in this message to Melissa Nathan, like from that screenshot, she's saying the whole cast hates Justin. This has nothing to do with Blake. And now saying that Blake was sexually assaulted. Why wouldn't she say anything about it then? She knows she's full of shit. She told me the whole issue was that everybody hates Justin. Nothing about Blake and Justin. She said it's nothing to do with Blake. Bullshit. So this guy already had an opinion clearly of where it was going. I will say I'm not a fan of the whole like, why didn't she say anything earlier? If you go back in Blake's complaint, like if you are going to look at it from like a believing her side of things lens. Honestly, at this point, it's not really looking good. I'm so sorry, but because I don't like to like say like, I don't believe you. Obviously I rode really hard, but like this evidence of like keeping so much stuff out, it doesn't look good. But anyways, in that complaint, Blake signed like an agreement saying, you know, like if these terms are abided by, which like, you know, that she laid out in her complaint, she would not retaliate. And then it also seems a little bit ironic to me when the lawsuit mentions Harvey Weinstein and essentially like their association with him. We know like a lot of women from the whole like Me Too movement, that was like part of the thing. Like they don't come right out and say anything when they're assaulted. So now it's like, because it's Blake, like they're like, if this is an issue, like I don't believe you. Why wouldn't you say something sooner? I just don't like that. Like, so to be clear, like I'm not saying that, you know, that I fully believe everything now, like with the new evidence. I just don't like the why now argument in general, because then it just kind of like, it gets us more, I don't know, used to it, I guess, and like more passive of allowing people to question true victims. Let's go on. So there are a bunch of screenshots between these teams and stuff, basically just saying that they don't know what's going on. And it's clear like Melissa and Blake's publicists like do not get along. So that I think also like got interweaved into like everybody else's stuff. And then the lawsuit just like further shows like more screenshots of just supporting that they did not plant anything through emails with like TMZ, other reporters, Daily Mail, etc. I'm going to leave it linked for you guys, all of them, all of the lawsuits, so that you can go through and like read them for yourself and just like see the text message, just because there's so much. I think like Justin Baldoni just amended his. So initially it was like 180 pages. Now it's like over 220. There's a lot. So they then go on to share how the New York Times and Blake got their evidence that was used in that expose, which I think we were all like, who leaked this? Like, where the heck did this come from? So they say most troubling is the Times' deliberate omission of a critical player in this manufactured controversy, Stephanie Jones, who was once Baldoni and Wayfarer's trusted public relations representative. Jones not only had intimate access to the communication strategy and crisis management surrounding the film, but also played a pivotal role in leaking private communications cited in the article. Her betrayal, driven by a quid pro quo arrangement with Lively, appears aimed at shielding herself while aligning with Lively to curry favor and secure future opportunities. So they're like, this was a calculated move to like get you on the Lively Reynolds Swifty side. It says Wayfarer terminated Jones for, among other things, having allegedly leaked information to the Daily Mail despite specific instruction from Wayfarer not to. So that's why they're saying like this is how hard that they were not wanting, like going to like try to diffuse the situation and not want things like leaked. So when they believed that she had done that, they were like, okay, you gotta go. Jones is notorious for exacting her revenge on any client brave enough to escape her grasp. The wording in this lawsuit is so dramatic. You guys have to like just go through it just for that alone. We should do like a dramatic reading. Jones is equally notorious for her alleged maltreatment of current and former employees alike. Wayfarer and Abel are no exception. So Jennifer Abel worked for Stephanie Jones. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many names going on here. Before. And like when all of that bad blood was going on, Jennifer was like, all right, I'm jumping ship. I'm doing what allegedly, in my opinion, I think that Blake Lively should be doing right now. It's hardly a coincidence that all the communications on which Lively and the Times are now rely are purposely produced by Jones's company, Joneswork LLC. The propriety of this alleged subpoena is unverified and at minimum highly questionable given Jones's involvement and the means by which Jones first obtained these confidential communications. So they're saying because in the article it was referenced that Blake got all of this information through like a subpoena. They're pretty much saying like there was no subpoena. Like what were the grounds of a subpoena of like going through everybody's stuff? She just handed this over because she wanted to like side with them and like try to take this whole team down. Abel, a former employee of Joneswork, was forced to relinquish her electronic devices when confronted by a Joneswork security guard and attorney upon her separation from the company, 6 weeks after she had put in notice and shared her plan to start her own business. Jones, on the heels of a damning Business Insider article and hemorrhaging clients, insisted that Abel turn over her electronic devices to allow Joneswork to delete all confidential and proprietary information therefrom. So when Jennifer decided to go off, she shows up at the office and is confronted by security and a lawyer being like, give us your phone. And they're like, under the guise of like, we're going to delete it. They're insinuating that is not what happened at all. There probably wasn't a subpoena. And they just wanted to take it because they knew that there could probably be some stuff that they could twist and alter to boost the narrative of Justin being predatory. Though Jones initially agreed to release Abel's personal cell phone number, she renegade? AKA she went back on her promise 4 months later. Abel's text messages are now the subject of Lively's CRD complaint and the New York Times article. So this is what I find is interesting, is that if this can be proven that it was Stephanie Jones that leaked the info to the Daily Mail when she was working for Wayfarer, then she could have potentially been the one to cherry pick and only release certain messages to Blake's team. So if that was what was delivered to Blake and the New York Times from Stephanie Jones, that would make sense. So either way, looks horrible for her. Like, and she's already getting sued. That's one of the lawsuits that's going on. But this could get really messy for her, like not only her and the Wayfarer side of things, but also Blake Lively and the New York Times and their journalists who wrote the piece, if they were like, this is what the evidence that you gave us. That's the only way I can see out of this for them. So for now, we're going to leave it here in terms of this lawsuit. This finally just like, honestly, just like pretty much goes on with even like more evidence that the allegations in the New York Times were meticulously spun to make it seem like they were involved in that smear campaign, and then them showing all of the receipts and correspondence between each other. Like, it seemed very frazzled and actually chaotic when you see it in a whole of being like, what is going on? Like, we want to diffuse this situation. So it's a lot of messages and stuff like that. I'll have that linked for you guys. So now we're going to go on to the latest lawsuit, which is the one against Blake and Ryan and Leslie Sloan. Like I said, it started off like 180 pages. Now it's like over 220. Justin and his lawyers, like, they also have a website. I'll have it linked below with their court documents. And then they also have like a PDF to the alleged timeline of events of everything, like down from like getting the script or the rights to the movie to hiring Blake and how all of that went, text messages in the early days, communications and all of that. It's insane. So let's get into that stuff now. So now with this one, this is Blake's not just referenced anymore, which is why I was like, there is so much reference to her, like something's coming for her. Yeah, sure enough, it's here now. So they filed a civil action complaint against, they being, again, Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer, the team, all of those that were like talked about in the New York Times article. So this is against Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Leslie Sloan. I think I already said it before. Stephanie Jones has her own. So if you're wondering like, whoa, if this all started because of this broad, she's already got her own thing going on between all of them now too. So she's not mentioned in this one, but there's a different one. So this is how it starts off. The introduction. The following is not a story the plaintiffs ever wished to tell. Unfortunately, defendant Blake Lively has unequivocally left them no choice, not only to set the record straight in response to Lively's accusations, but to put the spotlight on the parts of Hollywood that they have dedicated their careers to being the antithesis of. That task was always going to be an uphill battle. They never imagined they would encounter it to this degree. Had Lively chosen to merely ride out the self-inflicted press catastrophe she faced in August 2024, the public would likely have moved on and never known the real truth about her. They would have never known that she deliberately and systematically robbed plaintiffs Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios of their movie. No one except the parties involved would have known that she used threats and extortion to relegate the colleagues she once highly praised to a basement to sit out their own premiere, while she enjoyed the spotlight of a premiere and after party that was ultimately co-financed by both Wayfarer and Sony. She would have gotten away with these things and more because Baldoni focused entirely on seeing the film succeed, would have held his tongue, as he had through the year and a half that Lively tormented him, his family, and his partners. Just came out swinging. But Lively could not tolerate her publicly tainted image for even a moment, and further could not accept that it was entirely of her own making. She needed a scapegoat. And rather than admit and take accountability for her own mishaps, she chose to blame plaintiffs in a malicious and unforgivably public manner. When she and Reynolds could not force Baldoni and Wayfarer to read a statement she and her representatives prepared, extorting them to take accountability in defense of Lively's actions, she laid in wait for months, preparing to publicly attack Baldoni by falsely claiming that he had sexually harassed her. The same falsified stories she had calculatingly devised and used throughout the production of this film in order to take control were now being used publicly to destroy Baldoni and plaintiffs. So this is where we're going to go into, and this was my thing too. I was like, really, is this over like ego battles, like her just wanting to take over the project? I'm like, surely this can't be like her like being that crazy of just being like, this is my project now, like I'm taking over. No, she did. She did. She took it over. But yeah, so oh god, that's why I was like, there's got to be more. And then I wanted to believe her. Oh god, you guys, it's just looking terrible. It's all looking terrible. They go on to say why Lively stole Wayfarer's movie, hijacked Wayfarer's premiere, destroyed plaintiffs' personal and professional reputations and livelihood, and aimed to drive plaintiffs out of business entirely. It further appears that Lively worked for months with the equally powerful New York Times to prepare a false and damaging narrative to deploy against plaintiffs. Not surprising, Lively prepared an administrative complaint with the Civil Rights Department in an attempt to use the litigation privileges to shield her behind-the-scenes conspiracy with the New York Times. But upon information and belief, the CRD complaint was filed only after defendants spent months feeding falsehoods to the New York Times, intending that they be disseminated to damage plaintiffs. So they're basically saying even the complaint with the CRD was like all calculated because she was already working behind the scenes with the New York Times. I'm assuming Stephanie Jones getting together like all of their evidence, doctored evidence we now see to put together, and then just like ended up filing that as kind of like a support too. And that's why they're saying it's suspicious the way that it was filed and not just like the full-blown like here's the lawsuit, like we're going to trial. It would have been enough of like a leg to stand on, I guess, like, oh yeah, there has been a filing, but then in this way she's not like subjecting herself to be like cross-examined and, you know, have to like put out like maybe what she actually had. Is that making sense? Am I making sense? I don't think I am. I think I'm confusing myself. I hope it's making sense to you. Basically what I'm trying to say is when it comes to the CRD complaint, why they're keep referencing it is because they're like, it's not like this huge lawsuit. So there was a reason that she did it. She had already been working with the New York Times. This was just to like further be like, yeah, like, and she did file. But then they knew like the intentions of the filing was not actually to, you know, go under oath. So they go on to say Lively wields immense power as one of the world's best known celebrities. In 2024, she used that power to seize control of the film It Ends With Us, produced and co-financed by plaintiff Wayfarer and directed by Baldoni, who also portrayed the lead Ryle. She set out to destroy plaintiff's livelihood and business, and if they did not bend to her incessant demands, and when they refused to give way, she did exactly that, accusing them of foul and reprehensible sexual misconduct. Wayfarer was blindsided when Lively, upon the conclusion of the industry strikes, refused to return to production absent the company's agreeing to her non-negotiable protections for return to production. Okay, so let's get into the evidence that they have to back all of this. I will talk about a couple things that I did find interesting that was left out of this, like entirety, but we'll get to that later on. So in the most simplest, nutshell-y way that I can put this, they accuse her of completely hijacking this project and then not only affecting Justin and the project, but like a bunch of other crews. So it wasn't just like Justin being like, oh, you like tried to like hijack this and like take it from me and it's all me, me, me. They're talking about like crew as well, like wardrobe, editors, writers. And then when the public turned on her and shit was hitting the fan, she and her team started planning and putting together this like hit piece with the New York Times to try and salvage her reputation. Now, the wanting to rewrite the script is mentioned a lot in it, and it really is like striking a chord with people because this lawsuit does show that Blake was constantly doing rewrites. Like so much correspondence back and forth with like Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, and like even like the producers, even like the Sony producers being like, what is going on? This is delaying things. She's constantly rewriting like every single day on set. And what really upset people was that she had never read the book up until that point. So she's doing all of these rewrites, and essentially like in her mind, I'm not like thinking that she wanted to be malicious. Like she obviously wanted the movie to succeed because it makes her succeed. But when you're going based off of like a book that people, like it resonated with a lot of people, touched a lot of people, affected a lot of people, and she hadn't read it and then was just like, I'm going to change that. Yeah, it wasn't off to like a good start, just like by her doing that. Same with the wardrobe. This goes on to say, in casting Blake Lively, a world-renowned actor with talent and charisma in the leading role, they entrusted her with that vision to bring Lily to life. Although Wayfarer learned that Lively had a reputation for being difficult to work with, Baldoni at the time was not dissuaded and found her to be genuine. And based on the text message interaction between these two, it definitely seems like that's true. It sounds like they had a great relationship, like fun, friendly. So then they show just like text examples of that. This one says, this is between Justin and Blake. Justin says, like, I've noticed with his text messages, he really loves the pound it emoji. He uses it a lot. So like, pound it, well played. Blake says, I feel the same. It's such a good feeling to get work done that we're proud of and to do it together. It just clicks when we find it. And that's just as rewarding as filming it or editing it or marketing it or releasing it. This is all storytelling. This is why we do it. Thank you for your collaboration. I'm really proud of what we're doing. He loved that comment, and he says, I like sentimental Blake. She replies, never met her. He says, I also like asshole Blake. Don't worry. Okay, good night. She said, yeah, I've met her. So have my suppositories. Good night. And then he laughed at that comment. So they're showing like there was even like the banter, you know, like, oh, like I like sentimental Blake, you know? And then she's like, yeah, I never met her. I get it. If I was him, I'd be like, she's fun. She's cool. She's talking about suppositories. Then they say, but almost immediately, Lively began inserting herself into the production process in intrusive ways well beyond the scope of her contractual entitlements. For example, Lively began to insist on creative control over her character's wardrobe. While lead actors are sometimes granted approval over their character's general look, they generally do not receive full control over wardrobe decisions without input from the director or producers. What may seem like an innocuous request can in fact have monumental impact on a film's production. So they're saying on the eve of, I think, doing all of the wardrobe stuff, the costume designer had to reshop like her entire wardrobe because Blake was just not feeling it. I do want to side pivot here for 1 second too, because she does mention it in, or it is mentioned in like text messages and stuff like that. Within this lawsuit, Blake had just given birth to like her 4th child at this time. I thought she looked great. Okay, the woman had 4 kids, but I get it. Being a woman, having the postpartum body, which, you know, like she seems to always be like fit and in shape. She still looked like better than like freaking 90% of women who shoot out 4 kids like right after going to work. But she did express several times that she was insecure about the way she looked, even asking Justin to push back certain scenes where her body was, you know, shown more to give her time to lose. I think she said like, I've got like another 20 pounds or something like that to go. And him reassuring her like, we'll do what we can to make you feel comfortable, but please don't think about your body. We'll read that in a second. But I think that that is important. And I do think that that actually contributed to her wanting to have a lot of control with the wardrobe, because if you notice, like people are like, oh my God, like going insane on Twitter about this, but like, you know, like wearing multiple pairs of pants and like the t-shirt or the tank top with the sweater, with the jacket, with the Carhartts, with the hats. She's definitely, in my opinion, I feel kind of like trying to like cover herself up because she's not feeling like really confident, and that can affect, you know, her performance. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I think that had a large part of why she went completely rogue with the wardrobe, was because she was not feeling like her best. But it ended up costing things. At the end of the day, this is like also business. Like, it's not just like be like, oh, like let her wear what she wants. Like, there are certain people hired to do certain jobs. When that changes, now, you know, you're allocating like a different fund for a whole new insane wardrobe that she would feel more comfortable in. So it says the costume designer had to reshop Lively's wardrobe, far exceeding the allocated budget and diverting time and resources, while also preparing wardrobes for the rest of the cast. At one point, Lively insisted that her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes, despite being a fledgling small business owner. Yeah, she just opened up the shop, but anyways. This forced Baldoni to rethink the entire script that had been in the works for well over a year and was approved by both Sony and Wayfarer, a script that Wayfarer had commissioned multiple drafts of and incorporated countless notes, including input from the book's author Colleen Hoover. The wardrobe budget ballooned. It also says that she refused to like do wardrobe fittings at the production office, which was like 15 minutes from her home. They wanted everyone to like come to her. So then they had to like pack up all of the wardrobe, like go and take it to her like personal penthouse. So it goes on to say that in sake of like just keeping the harmony between everybody, they just agreed to the wardrobe. They were just like, okay, you know what? If this is, you know, like the biggest difficulty, like in terms of like the rumors of working with her, whatever, let's just let her feel comfortable in what she's wearing. So then they move on to a lot of things that were taken out of context and kind of address specific concerns that were alarming to people like us who read the New York Times piece and had a lot of questions. So when it comes to the whole situation of Justin crying in Blake's trailer over the wardrobe, the narrative the New York Times spun was taken out of context. It says, alleging that Baldoni made inappropriate comments on her appearance. In reality, Baldoni, the film's director, was relaying the distributor's concern and the widespread social media criticism regarding the wardrobe's failure to meet audience expectation. They claimed what really happened was, on the first day of principal photography, paparazzi captured and published photos of Lively in character wearing her hand-picked wardrobe. These images were widely reported as unflattering and sparked a backlash from Sony. Baldoni received direct criticism from Sony, who voiced serious concerns about the impact of the photos on the film's public reception. Following these events, Baldoni approached Lively in her trailer to discuss necessary wardrobe adjustments and resetting their relationship to assert his role as director and his need to have approval over her wardrobe. The conversation, while professional, took considerable time, and that later grossly misrepresented in Lively's CRD complaint, which falsely characterized the exchange as a lengthy outburst that delayed filming and caused the crew to wait for hours while Baldoni cried in Lively's dressing room. On information and belief, Lively circulated this false account to the New York Times with the intention and result that it be widely published. This conversation did not take hours, and any length of time it took was not because Baldoni cried for hours. In truth, rather than take heed of the concerns of the film's distributor and director, Lively took this time to, among other things, suggest to Baldoni that he was being gaslit by Sony, Heath, and the other producers, and tried to convince them to let her continue to take the helm. Baldoni did briefly become emotional during the conversation, but only in response to what he believed was a genuine compliment from Lively, praising his work as a director and an actor. So that makes sense. Like for Justin's side, again, context here, guys. We're learning so much more. Sorry. Because I was like, why are you going in there crying about like her body and what they're saying? But now we're understanding, again, there's so many people behind the scenes, right? So many people they've got to answer to. So this lawsuit is claiming that Justin got heat when Sony was seeing the response from that photo. I do remember when that went out. It was, I think it was the one where she had like the skirt on, and then the tied pink shirt, and then like a bunch of jackets over top of it. It was definitely confusing. I didn't know what movie she was filming for, what her character was all about with that. So I understand the question, and then I also understand the concern from the, from Sony and the rest of the producers being like, okay, we are not off to a good start. We need to do something about this. And Justin, from what we'll see like in text messages and like voice notes that he released himself, seems like a very sensitive man. I think one of my toxic traits is like, as we get into some of this, I I like cringe a little bit, but that's a me problem, not a Justin problem. So I totally, after seeing some of these messages and exchanges, could see her being like, listen, like they're trying to like gaslight you. Like, let me do what I think. We're doing something amazing. Like we were all on the same, like you and I were on the same page. Like, don't worry. I got you. Like, you're an amazing actor. Like you're doing great at drug dealing. And I could see him being like, yeah, it's like, it's really hard out here right now. That's what I do believe that's probably why he was crying. So they claim that after giving her away, like with the wardrobe, she just, instead of being like, okay, like let's move on now. No, it was like, okay, like I got like an inch. I'm going to take a mile now. Next, she wanted to rework the script. And one of the scenes that she wanted to rewrite was a pivotal point in the movie, being the rooftop scene where Blake and Justin's characters meet for the first time. So she approached Justin and said like she wanted to take a shot at rewriting that scene and see what his thoughts were on it. So he was like, okay, go for it. Not promising that we're going to do that, but I'd love to see, like, and read what you think. So the story goes, she rewrites the scene, okay, sends it off to Justin. And I think his response was something along the lines of like, yeah, like it's good. It might be like a little bit of both. Like, so we'll include some of your stuff and then we'll also kind of include what was originally there, like, and also like originally in the book. Okay. Sounds like Blake did not like that response and wanted, the response of being like, yeah, it's perfect. We're just gonna go with that. Justin, it sounds like Justin was, close enough with her that he was often at her penthouse doing work there. She's getting everybody to go there, do the wardrobe, stuff like that. So it just kind of like seemed like a lot of people would go there because she was like minutes from the set. And when he gets there, Blake's there, Ryan Reynolds is there, and Taylor Swift is there. And they're like, he said that it was clear there was like an agenda when he got there of not just like having like a brief like exchange or like doing some work. It was Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift just like going over and above talking about like the rooftop scene and being like, isn't it amazing? Don't you love, oh my God, this is so much better. Just, you know what I mean? Like in not so much words, it was like, it's the best. Like, you're going to do this one. We think it's the best. Like, don't even bother. Like, we don't like that other one. We like this one. So just go with Blake's. Pretty much was the vibe that he got. So she replies after he left, or they're sending messages after he left, kind of talking about other things. And then Justin goes, great. Also was working on the rooftop scene today. I really love what you did. It really helped a lot. Makes it so much more fun and interesting. And then in brackets, he said, and I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor. You really are a talent across the board. Really excited and grateful to do this together. Okay, this is one of the text responses that a lot of people are talking about. This is the one where she refers to herself as Khaleesi. Okay, so this is how this all exchange went. And I think it also gives a really good insight to what Blake was wanting to do with. I think she saw Justin as somebody who, again, very sensitive, very accommodating, and being like, I've been waiting for a chance to like get more involved in a project. And I think like this is the one that I would be able to have like the most push with and the most creative control, which whatever, like, I guess I don't know. I guess if there was like a boundary and a line of like what her expectations were for her involvement, like it could have been like a really positive thing and like a move, like another step forward into doing something like completely on her own and just be able to like reference that and show like her skills. But anyways, because it sounds like she's wanted to do this for a while and just has not been taken seriously by other directors. So she says that's very appreciated and means a lot. I'm deeply inspired by the film we're going to make outside of the success of the book. We have such an opportunity to not only surprise people who love the book, but reach an even bigger audience by making an undeniably dynamic and also commercial film. The moment that excited me the most the other day was when you said, "You're not funny. You are going to kill that rooftop scene." I said it like that because like with after every word, she put a period. You know it, I'm sure. Even though it was said in playful self-deprecation that we all participate in, it made me think of the process as a whole. Please know I trust that on that day you've got me, and I hope that you trust that I've got you if you want it. We're in this together, and we are two of the most determined people I know. We have very high bars set for ourselves. To collaborate with that type of partner is a gift that neither of us will squander because we both care too much about the result and also the experience. This also kind of feels like very like undertoned of being like, it's kind of manipulative, you know, like she's putting the words and thoughts in his mouth or like in his head by her, you know, like by her messages here. I have no motives except for you to win as a director and as an actor, as a studio, as a writer. If you win, I win. If you win, our movie wins. We are aligned and I will bring everything I have to this. Then she goes, as for Taylor and Ryan and someone else for that matter, I wonder if it's Travis. Not me, just like going to like spill false information here. I'm the luckiest mother effer on the planet to have them as my dance mom level stage moms. They are embarrassingly effusive. That said, they are my most trusted partners and the people I go to first with anything creative I touch. And I'm the person they each go to first too. That reciprocal creativity and support has been one of my life's greatest and most fulfilling gifts. When they loved and signed off on the pages, it felt good to send them to you. They asked what you thought specifically after. They checked in so many times. I told them that you laughed a bunch and said it's probably a blend, but you appreciate my passion so much, which of course didn't feel great for me or them. To have my passion be praised instead of any specific contribution, or even just that you don't like the pages, which was fine also. So I think they wanted you and me to see how they felt about the work because they've been by my side for far too many experiences where I've been overlooked. I spoke to you about this when we first met. They've watched me handwrite scripts because the director is too afraid to send the FDX file. Yet he scans and has someone hand type all 120 pages of my pencil rewrites. They've watched me be hired as a writer and paid a significant fee for it, but on the condition that I never asked for credit, which I could give a shit about. It's more the principle of the dynamics at play. They watch the other side of it too, where I'm told at signing on that I'm wanted as a true collaborator, but once I get to work, I'm really just wanted as a yes man audience and actor. So again, this is kind of, you know, supporting that, what I was saying, that she's wanted to dip her toes in more, wanted to be taken more seriously, and gets the feeling that like she's finally going to work with somebody who's going to let her do that. And then they're like, no. Both Ryan and T have established themselves as absolute titans as writers and storytellers outside of their primary gig. Or just singing or acting or blank just directing. Ooh, so not Travis. I'm so lucky to have them as creative barometers, but also to who talks like this? But also to have them as people who prop me up and make sure I'm seen for all I can and do and offer, because they know firsthand all I contribute. They also know I'm not always as good at making sure that I'm seen and utilized for fear or threat of threatening egos or fear of affecting the ease of the process. They don't give a shit about that. And because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. Shrugging thing. Okay, and then this is the part, you guys. If you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate that I'm Khaleesi, and like her, I happen to have a few dragons. For better or worse, but usually for better, because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine. You will too, I can promise you. Blake, what the fuck? Who sends this? And I'm like, anyways, yeah, to send this, like, it's so cringe. When I first read it, I just wanted to like crawl out of my skin for like embarrassment for her. I just like imagine like Justin reading this being like, what are you talking about? Especially if he hasn't seen Game of Thrones, being like Khaleesi and the dragons, and be like, who are the dragons? What do the dragons do? So, since this filing, Justin's released like quite a bit of things, like unedited footage of like the montage scene of the characters like falling in love, like which we will see. But he also released the voice note that he sent Blake at 2 a.m. in response to this, and like how it must have like made her feel, and just like overly apologetic. I feel like you can really see like this, like the sensitivity and to me, like it's such a wrong word because like he seems kind. Like to me, it's just like cringe. It's cringe. But again, that's like a me problem. Okay, says more about me than anything. My trust issues, they just run too deep for somebody to be like this genuinely kind and concerned in this voice note. So let's take a listen.
Hey Blake, it is 2 a.m. Hopefully this does not wake you up. Whew. Wow. There's so much I want to say to you, and I hope that we can FaceTime or see each other in person soon and get to talk more. But I'm just gonna send you a few thoughts, and hopefully it's not gonna be more than a few minutes. But I don't have the best track record. I don't think either one of us have the best track record for our voice memos. I want to start with an apology. Man, reading the second part of your message, my heart sank. And I'm really sorry. I for sure fell short. And you worked really hard on that. And the way you framed it and how that made you feel, I just want to say thank you for sharing that with me. That takes a lot of trust and vulnerability, and I feel really grateful that you feel safe enough to tell me that that's how you feel and share that with me. And I'm really sorry. I f***ed up. That is a fail on my part. One thing you should know about me is I will admit and apologize when I fail. I am far from perfect. I'm a very flawed man, as my wife will attest. And and I'm gonna f*** up. I'm gonna say the wrong thing. I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth. I'm gonna piss you off probably, but I will always apologize and find my way back to center. That is one thing I can assure you of. And I'm sorry I made you feel that way. That must have felt terrible. And I will for sure do better. That was not my best weekend, and I should have given it more time. And damn right, you got great friends if that's how you felt and they knew that. And we should all have friends like that, aside from the fact that they're two of the most creative people on the planet. The three of you guys together is unbelievable. Talk about energy and just a force, all three of you. But I just wanted you to know that I didn't need that, because it's really good and it's going to make the movie sing like you said. And I'm excited to go through the whole movie with you. I'm just excited to spend time with you.
Now, I know a lot of people had concerns that this was sent at like 2 a.m. My understanding, though, I think somebody on TikTok was able to notice that when that was sent, like, and you could see like the screenshot of that voice note, she had also like messaged pretty late at night. So it wasn't like he was just like kind of like laying there after all day, like just like pining and thinking about like what he wanted to say, and then like sends this like the whispering, I can't, you guys, this note like out of nowhere at 2 a.m. So in the morning, or maybe still in the middle of the night, I don't know, she texts back. So she says, "Thank you for your voice memo. It's deeply appreciated. You are everything you promised to be as a collaborator. Thank you." So weird to say collaborator. Like, she's already like instilling that vocabulary. Do you guys notice that? Instead of like the director and like the producer of the film. "I know my job here, and this piece is a big part of my job here. We both understand the assignment as actors in the role, but also as producers. We are also marketers. We understand artistically, yes, but we get what we need to do in all aspects for this movie commercially. As woke as we both are and work to be, this movie requires a certain aesthetic. It's a part of the job that we both excitedly signed up for. I don't shy away from it because it's not problematic. It's the assignment. Like when someone is about to start an athletic event, it's their job to be in top shape. My husband and I both look at certain roles as athletic events, and this is one of them. It's not always a part of the job, but on this one it is, and that's great." Blake, what are you trying to say? As much as I'd love to not think about it, that would be irresponsible and also impossible, because it's unrealistic to not acknowledge what I need to do. This is my job here, and I meet my responsibilities with extreme work ethic. I look for solutions to achieve my high goals instead of lowering my goals. I like that. We all win when we're each firing at our highest capabilities. I wonder if she must be talking, oh yeah, she's talking about her body here. Okay, this makes sense. So, okay, maybe also we need a little bit more context in that voice note, because I don't know if it was like specifically, there must have been other things going on where you know what might have happened? This could have been, not me just like being like the worst at like, and why are all their text messages so blurry? I wonder if this is also when Ryan like popped off on him about her body, and then that was whole situation was misconstrued, which we'll get into. Yeah, she goes, I just need as much time as possible because I just had my 4th baby. I understand that you'll never personally know all the nuances of the challenges unless you live this physical moment in time I'm in with this physical road ahead. So having your understanding and support to help me pull this off is critical and very, very appreciated. Not just in my experience now, but also healing from experiences past. So thank you. We are going to kill it and be so fit they have to Lola us to look less banging. So the filing pretty much after this goes on to say that, yes, by giving her an inch, she took like over this whole damn thing. And then goes, difficult proved to be a gross understatement, referring to like the rumors that they heard of working with her. Though Baldoni initially invited Lively to make changes to the script, Lively began altering the script daily. The frequency of Lively's revisions alarmed the producers, director, and studio, who anticipated that her interference would persist every day of the shoot and disrupt the carefully planned production schedule. Each shooting day was intricately scheduled long in advance, and Lively's constant changes placed significant stress on the production crew, not to mention financial strain on Wayfarer. So they show a text message between one of the producers and Jamie Heath. So he's like, are you listening to this? She's fixing the script. I think Angie's advice was actually wrong. Blake is now directing this movie. This is bad. Jamie says, I'm listening. Talking through it is better than not. Seeing what's possible as long as any decision is done with approval. And the producer goes, not for something that we already intimately planned. This will be every day of the shoot. Jamie goes, I know, I'm not sure what can be done honestly at this point in terms of Blake. So this very much reads to me that they were getting a lot of pressure from the other producers and the studio, and not like just them being like, you know, how dare her like try to take this as our product, this is what we're doing. Like in terms of just Justin and Jamie, they're getting the pressure from the other higher ups. And even Jamie in here, there's some stuff that I don't like about Jamie that we'll talk about like in terms of like the birth scene and stuff like that. But he's like, yeah, I'm listening, you know, talking through it is better than not though, and just seeing what's possible. And then as long as any decision is made and it's done with approval. So it sounds like he's still open to this. Whether that is just to like keep the peace or not, I don't know. But it's still the producers being like, no, absolutely not. We've already planned this. This is going to delay the shoot. Again, like money. This is like time costs money. So after all of this, she gets her way with the rooftop scene. Okay. And then imagine the entire production, studio, directors, everybody's surprised when she says on the red carpet, I think it was like to Access Hollywood or something like that, that it was Ryan Reynolds who wrote that scene. Okay, and this is important because there's like a whole, when you're looking at it in like terms of like business again and all the other players and legalities of the situation and how like the whole like producing of a film actually goes on, this is a big deal. So after she says this on the red carpet, there's a email that's sent out from the Sony legal team. And the subject is, it ends with us / Ryan Reynolds writing issue. And that's sent to Wayfarer Cancel. So it says, hi blank, we certainly need some clarity on public comments made about Ryan Reynolds potentially contributing writing services for the rooftop scene. Can you provide additional information on this, as there's no contracts, his services are not in the chain, nor is his name anywhere in the credits. One of the many media reports which cites this claimed was made by Blake Lively. And then there's a link to like a People magazine article. Thanks for clarifying. If services were rendered, obviously we require signed documentation immediately. So they're like, what the heck? Like she's saying like he wrote it. He's not credited as a writer. We cannot have this like go back later and be like a whole thing. What the heck is going on? So then the Wayfarer team responds and says, hello, your email was just shared with me by blank in order to address this issue. We were not aware of any writing services rendered by Ryan Reynolds. Regardless of what is being said publicly, this is not something we are aware of. We are learning about these allegations in real time. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. That's nuts. It just kind of gives, I don't know, I get so interested about this stuff because it gives you a little bit of insight about like what goes on behind the scenes. again, this is showing like, what the hell is happening? You guys are just like kind of going rogue here. So let's sidestep into like Ryan Reynolds here for just a minute, because there are the allegations that there was more than just one heated meeting between him and Justin Baldoni. The first was in regards to Blake alleging that Justin was fat shaming her and going behind her back to ask their mutual personal trainer about her weight to avoid a back injury during a lift scene. So he states that the day after asking the trainer about like her weight and like what he should be doing to train to like strengthen up his back muscles, he was called to Blake and Ryan's penthouse, and Ryan like popped the F off on him, screaming at him like, how dare you ask about my wife's weight? What's wrong with, like, screaming at Justin. So that's why I'm wondering if this also took place when they were talking about the rooftop scene, because it seems like there was multiple like responses and conversations going into the text reply and also that voice note from Justin. So Justin says he was so taken back that he just started like profusely apologizing and tried to explain like this was a misunderstanding. And he said like, you know, everything that I did was to ensure that like Blake felt confident and comfortable because it was her that had made the comments about her postpartum body. So I think him being like, I want to like strengthen my back. He's been known to have like back issues. And then maybe thinking like, you know, like in this scene where I've got to lift her up, like I don't want to embarrass her if she's already having issues and like drop her or something like that. That's how I'm taking like the response here. And then they just show another example of the text message of her like talking about like her body. She said, kicking ass, but it's still taking a ton of work with not a ton of time. What's the chance we can do body scenes at the end of the schedule? Justin replies back, I'm sure you are. He says, honestly, there's 1 billion moving parts to schedule right now. I just turned in the rewrite, and so they are hard at work. So much of it comes down to locations and other cast availability, etc. So to be honest, I have no clue. I want you to know, though, you will look amazing. Anything you are insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing you need. As soon as I have a rough schedule that's even remotely accurate, I'll share it, and I'll make sure the team keeps this in mind as well. Heart. Now, if you remember in my last video, Blake's claim and what was mentioned in the New York Times article is that there was no such scene where he lifted her. So they were saying like his reasonings for reaching out were false because there was not actually like a lift scene in it. So he like lied to the personal trainer to figure out where her weight was at this time. According to this lawsuit, though, there is in fact a lift scene, but when Blake took over the entire editing process as well, which we'll learn about, it was removed. So that's again wild to me, because all of us who read that article, like you just take that and believe it. We're gonna get into that in a minute, but this keeps going on, okay? Like kind of like this back and forth and trying to constantly just, I guess, like just like baby and, you know, just like keep Blake content and calm. And it got to the point where the pressure from the studio, pressure from other producers, it was really heavy, and a lot of it was coming on Justin. Like we saw that example of Jamie. There's lots in the lawsuit of the same type of correspondence to Justin being like, you got to get a hold of your girl here. And then they say it came to the point where when he did have to like put his foot down like a little bit more firmly, this is when she starts this like new narrative and like started delivering ultimatums. The lawsuit says Lively delivered an ultimatum. If Baldoni could not get on board with her work method, he had 2 weeks to recast her. Implicit in this ultimatum was a threat to destroy Baldoni's reputation and career. As Lively well knew, Baldoni has worked hard throughout his career to earn and deserve a reputation based on his passionate advocacy for women's rights, a reputation she would later exploit and weaponize against him. If Lively were to back out of the film, especially based on accusations of fat shaming, Baldoni's reputation and life's work would be left in tatters. He had no choice but to bow to Lively and Reynolds' demands. Concerns about Lively's undue influence over the film began to grow even before filming started. This is another example of, as they were catering, pressure from producers is coming. This is a producer saying to Jamie Heath, he cannot let her have opinions on everything. Jamie says, Blake, ? Or she is going to be co-directing this film. And then yes, in response to Blake, yeah, we're talking about that a lot yesterday. In capitals, exactly. This is why everyone is starting to lose it. We've been talking about the same thing for months. He says, yep, it's starting to get resolved. This producer says, no, it's not. Like this is pressure. It sounds like they're definitely trying to just like keep the peace, keep not just Blake. How do we keep Blake and everybody else happy here? This was the first time Lively openly moved to seize control of the film from Baldoni, but it would not be the last. Again, like the writing in here is so dramatic. Filming begins as Lively builds her takeover strategy. Principal photography began on the film in early May 2023. On set, Lively continued to maintain what later appeared to be a facade of a close, caring relationship with Baldoni, even as she continued to make escalating demands for creative control. By the time production began, Lively and Baldoni had worked closely together for months, and Lively expressed warm gratitude for her collaboration with Baldoni on the eve of filming. So she goes to say, this note means so much to me. I'm excited to start tomorrow, but it's only one piece of the journey. We started months ago, and I'm grateful for all we've built so far. Thank you for caring so much and for putting every bit of you into showing it. You have given so much of your time to fight the great, and that hasn't gone unappreciated or unseen for a moment. I wonder if she's referring like to like all of him like just like catering to her demands there. Ooh. Throughout the first filming period, Lively continued to share her open and unguarded thoughts on life and her character. She talked about her wardrobe choices to make character much sexier. So this is going to come into play because remember she said that Justin like referred to like one of the scenes where they're all in like onesies at a bar. And then she had a jacket and he's like, well, I think it'll look sexier if you don't. And then you're matching all of us too in wearing onesies. I agree. I watched the movie now. And that definitely made sense. Like, why would you? So this is where she's talking about like, in terms of wardrobe, using the term sexy. She says, I'll show you both ways, but with the beanie is much sexier. It's the look. Feels TV without it, especially with a crop top in the snow. It justifies the rest of the skin. And also it's a girl I would check out walking down the street because it washes the effort off the rest of the look. Lively also continued to express her warm appreciation and respect for Baldoni as filming continued, even as she acknowledged she could be difficult and critical of others, using the kind of language she herself would have alleged to be inappropriate. Justin says, I'm not going to tell you that you are amazing because you tease me for being so sentimental, but you were amazing today. She says, thank you. I do appreciate it. I'm just a ball buster, but it means a lot to me. I care a great deal and always want to deliver. You were terrific. I'm proud of everything we did today, but really every day. He loved that and then said, thank you, praying emojis. Now, this has been something that's been mentioned. Are we all thinking that Blake thinks that any compliment towards her, somebody being this sensitive, like means they want her? Or B, she was feeding into it and Ryan was not a fan of the interaction? This is what I'm seeing. This is also like when I read some of these messages, I'm like, there's rumors about Ryan Reynolds being a very like insecure man. And then I think I mean, we can look and spin anything like any way we want and try to like dissect somebody's character who we know nothing about really at the end of the day. Some of the things that he said in interviews or like quotes that he's like said in terms of kind of establishing like dominance or, like, I guess like marking his territory when it comes to his partners. Yeah, like looking back on some of the things that could make sense. But it seemed like a respectful relationship between Justin and Ryan. Justin even texted Ryan to reach out to him, just kind of like introduce himself and, kind of just, we'll read the message, like, like the guy that's working with your wife every day. And then Ryan replied. And so it seems like based on these text messages, like initially, like there was nothing but like respect and admiration, I guess. This is Justin's text to Ryan. He goes, hey, Ryan, Justin Baldoni here. Justin Baldoni here. The guy who brought his literal baggage to his meeting with your wife. I asked Blake for your number well over a month ago and have wanted to text you for a while now, but my God, old nerves got the best of me. Emily and I, his wife, have a very small circle. We live out of the country in Oi? And pretty much just hang out with each other. We've known all of our closest friends for years, and I don't really have any close female friends that my wife isn't also friends with, let alone married ones. And so I guess this is just an awkward text to say, I'd like to be friends. I'm happy there's no check yes or no box. Blake also sent the sweetest message to my wife unprompted, saying something similar, which just made me respect her and your union even more. I've been a supporter and admirer from afar for both of yours for years. You are in a class of your own and so appreciate the way you move through the world as a man, but also you both as a couple. Your work/family balance and the way you manage to show up, not just as a husband, but as a father is so beautiful. I aspire to have that balance and also find myself struggling to do it a lot. Your support of her doing this movie meant the world to me, and when Blake told me that one of the reasons she and you leaned in was because of the love I have for my wife, it was by far the most meaningful reason I've ever had someone want to work with me. So I think he's also in here, like, also just like respectfully reaching out to, like, you know, the husband, and, you know, clarifying like that he respects that they love their marriage so much, and kind of being like, not so like obviously, like, I do love my wife. You got nothing to worry about here, buddy. I hope my late night texts with her haven't gotten too annoying, and I'm really looking forward to all of us spending time together. My family is coming for half the time, which is going to be hard for me as we haven't spent more than a week apart in 11 years, but we will make it work, and I know my kids are excited to make some new friends in yours, like in your kids. I'm going to do everything I can to get Blake out at least a few days earlier than before. The scheduling is still being worked on, as I know how important it is for you all to be together, and I honor that. I can't promise it yet, but I'll do whatever I can. And finally, congrats on your gorgeous son. Did I say she had another daughter? Oh, why did I think that they were all girls? That kid sure won the lottery up there to get to choose both of you as parents. Okay, that's the end of my vulnerability vomit. All that to say, looking forward to seeing you all, and maybe we can get a workout or two in while I prep. I'm excited to work with, and then the personal trainer that Ryan and Blake suggested to him. Then he does the little strong guy. Much love. P.S. Let me know if the offer to move in still stands. So then Ryan replies. Again, seems all good. He says, hey, Justin, sorry for the delay. I've been in writing cave and the girls are sick again. I'm told they have an immune system, but it's in beta testing. What a loving and generous message. Thank you. We're both looking forward to getting to know you and your family better. We're also big fans over here since before we met, and more so after. You've been a wonderful collaborator with B. That means a great deal to both of us. Being a stand-up person is everything, and you've been just that since day one. Thank you. You've hit the jackpot with B. She literally passes on every film and every filmmaker all the time. But one thing I know, and I speak from a deep wellspring of experience here, having her in your court behind the scenes is a creative and invaluable. I am certain blank would say the same. I don't know if that's like another director or something. Some of the greatest decisions I've ever made are in fact Blake. Same goes for blank. Ooh, I wonder if it was Taylor. Not me just like constantly guessing. The acting is a small piece of a pretty astounding patchwork quilt of creativity. Why do these people talk like this? Is this just me? More than anything, I rely on her taste. Far beyond movies, I rely on her taste for all aspects of my business. Not you selling your wife. Ryan, we get it. That multi-dimensional creative output is something I can see in both of you. I'm excited for you to work together. I'm excited for Blake to crack open her creative piggy bank with someone as dynamic as you. This is going to be incredible, all caps. And thank you for understanding what it means to me personally to have my family reunited as soon as possible. Nothing means more to me either, I can promise you. We're hardworking for keeping our family together. It's how it wins us. And also how to kill us when we can't. We never split up, ever. It was a huge thing for us on this film. I tried to push our start date, but Marvel booked studios last July and blank timing was locked. I've been frantically... it says something I frantically, and then this cut off. So we see and appreciate you already moved significantly to make it work with her schedule because of the film she'd already committed to, which thankfully she was able to gracefully punt. She tried before but didn't share how hard. All this to say, I'd have your line producer's face tattooed on my perineum if he, she, they can figure out how to start 2 weeks earlier. So clearly they're all separated, like I think from their families at this point. I believe Justin lives in LA, Blake and Ryan live in New York, but Ryan was also like on set. I don't know if it was like in LA or Vancouver. I just want to make up that it's Vancouver, but I just think I'm going that route because he's from Vancouver. Anyways, so they were all like kind of apart. And then it's like Justin and Blake are together. Ryan's off. Emily, Justin's wife, is away from them. And they're just like trying to figure out how to like all, you know, still be able to like see each other all the time. That being said, like this is your guys' job, right? We know that that's like one of the hardest things, I think, even on relationships and families of actors, directors, like anybody in the movie business, is that you're away from home so much, especially if you're both like working on projects at the same time. So clearly he's like, if you guys can like, you know, like do something here, I'll have the producer's face tattooed on my perineum, the spot between isn't that the spot between the butthole and And the balls. He goes, completely understand how big of an asset that is, but the perineum is one of the most nervy parts of the human body to expose to trauma. So, looking forward to seeing you, and thank you again for all you're doing. I happen to adore you, Justin. XO. Justin replies, again at 1:30 in the morning. This is the sweetest. So that was their text exchange, lots of jokes. I also feel like the tone is set between like Blake and Ryan as well, like their humor. And we're talking about a perineum. She's talking about like certain looks being like sexy and stuff like that. And I think it just, I don't know, like kind of insinuated like that they were like gonna be like close friends and be able to like have these open conversations and like even like banter, jokes. And then all of a sudden it was used later as like a weapon. So I have this, I have a lot more to say on like all of that angle in a minute. Let's just put a little tiny pin in that for a second. The lawsuit goes on to say that same thing, the implication that they were like close and like had like a close bond, not to make that like seem like, like sexual or anything like that, and because of Blake's words, interactions, like he felt like they were, closer friends, I guess. It says, Lively's intimate comfort with Baldoni continued as filming progressed. In June of 2023, after the alleged harassment and uncomfortable situation allegedly occurred, she invited Baldoni to her trailer to rehearse while pumping breast milk. And then it just shows the same text that we saw, just pumping in the trailer if you want to work out line. Lively was so close and comfortable with Baldoni that she freely breastfed in front of him during meetings. She took photos of him holding and soothing her crying baby in her penthouse. They laughed deliriously during late-night writing sessions. All of these events took place after the alleged sexual harassment. Lively's accusation seemed to come out of the blue. This must have been so frustrating to work with, because I also thought that too, based on like the text exchange and stuff. Like you think like things are going one way, and then later when it comes out and you're like trying to put the timelines of like when did she like is saying that these things happened, and you're like that's not how I interpreted the situation. So it says, though she was loose and relaxed in her speech on set, she was increasingly stringent in demands she imposed on the production. So everything is moving forward. Everybody thinks like, okay, whatever, as long as we're just kind of like adhering to her demands and changes, is it really that big of a deal? Like at least the movie's like still moving forward. They're still going with it. Justin still thinks like he's forging on with making a close relationship, friendship with her. Then during labor strikes, Lively moves to seize absolute power. The lawsuit says on May 2nd, 2023, the Writers Guild of America went on strike. Production for the film halted temporarily on June 14th due to the WGA picketing. The next day, the production was notified that the WGA had agreed not to picket their set, allowing production to continue. But Lively had already gone and refused to return to the production immediately. Wayfarer worked the shooting schedule at great expense to film scenes with the younger versions of the characters. So in characters of like Blake Lively's and Justin Baldoni, or not Justin, Brandon Skarsgård. Anyways, so they moved to film those scenes instead of the scenes that they needed Blake on. So like completely rearrange everything, get them called in, do all that set. Then on June 27th, production shut down entirely for the pendency of the strike. To make the most of the time during the strike, Baldoni began editing the footage that had been captured to date, starting the director's process of turning footage into film. Lively expressed excitement over returning to shoot in the fall in New York, making no mention of any discomfort or harassment that would be brought up only later after months of being apart on the day the strikes ended. Both before and during the strikes, Lively's eager involvement in the production took on a more incessant and manipulative tone as she asked for access to the dailies and clear and early cuts of scenes, both inappropriate and unorthodox requests. So they show a text here that says from Blake to Justin, "Hey, would you mind giving me access to the dailies? I'm curious which takes you liked of the scenes you showed blank. My manager blank flew out to visit set and leaves tomorrow a.m. He heard all about it from Warren and I'd love to show him. I appreciate you may be too slammed right now to make this happen, but maybe someone else can facilitate ? Thanks so much! ! So Justin sent dailies. I heard that this is, like not customary to do. Those are like basically like what was filmed like in that day, like certain scenes, and then he's like trying to like put things together. She wants to see them. So then she replies back, "Hey, I hope you and your family are well. I watched the selects you sent. So great. I was so happy and energized. Such solid work from everyone on and off camera. It was really cool to see. We were working so quickly. There was never time to look back, so it was nice to revisit from an audience's perspective. Please let me know who to reach to get access to the full gallery of dailies. So I guess he had like sent a few like that he had already worked on for her and like just to appease her. And then she's like, no, I want the full gallery. I'm so looking forward to seeing all we have in the can. And of course, any scenes you cut together, I'd love to see. Hope you're having a good summer and hopefully a good edit. Will your assembly be done soon? ? And then like X. So once Justin got this and had already like just like sent like one to like appease her, and then she like came back for more, he screenshots that request, sends it to the producer, and he goes like, thoughts? Because again, this is not customary. He doesn't know like how to move forward with this. The producer says, I'd say no, and then in quotations, but check with her contract first, LOL. And this is also what they're saying, like, and why things seemed so confusing was like on set, like she was relatively like jovial and positive and like seemed excited to work. And then they'd get like emails like from her representatives of like things that needed to change and like all of these requests. But it was like, then she'd like go back to work and like act like everything was like cool. That's how I'm perceiving this. This is like a whole group chat with like several producers, I think, and then Jamie, Heath, and also Justin. Jamie says, yeah, I was waiting for blank to respond to that. It's an absolute no for me as well, respectfully. Not sure best way to respond being how delicate it is. The producer says, I think you can either not respond until tomorrow or say you need to talk to the team or just say no, you're not comfortable with it. Jamie says, maybe we can let this be a Sony decision and you can respond with that for now. Again, it's like putting everybody in like such an awkward situation. And I think like if it not coming from like Justin or Jamie and then putting it on Sony, maybe she wouldn't have like just kept like pushing so much. I do think that that was like the wrong call, honestly, like for some of the producers to just like put it on him. Yes, I get that he's the director. I don't think that he's like pitbull enough to be a director. I do think like based on all of these like correspondence, Justin's like a really like sensitive, soft person and just like doesn't want to rock the boat. And I don't know, like I think you have to have like pretty like strong backbone to like be a director. I got the intention, but you know what I mean. So he goes, thank you, spoke to blank too. I think I'm just going to say yes and send her a playlist of a bunch of good takes from different scenes that last for 3 or 4 days. Then blank said no, LOL. The producer says, we all say no and you're going to send? He said, no, she liked the idea of a playlist, no access to the dailies. I wasn't clear in the text. And then he said, okay, copy, makes sense. So he's just saying like, basically I'll send her a playlist of whatever I have already to show the agent that'll make her happy. And then, yeah, everyone was like, okay, yeah, that's fine then. But again, you just kind of like get to like see the tone here, right? Of, you need to put your foot down, Justin. Like, no, we said no and you're saying yes. And he's like, okay, sorry. That's how I'm reading. So Justin replies back after that conversation, like talking to the producers and stuff, and like just like kind of like lightly tiptoes, like, hey, yeah, like hope everyone's doing good. Hope you're enjoying time with the family. In regards to the dailies, obviously, I want your input. That's why I sent the 5-hour playlist. Remember that one? But at this point, it's too early for me to share all the dailies. I start my cut in early August, given the new editors, and still going through the rest myself. Also figuring out our shooting plan as I have to cut and combine and find ways to scale down for the budget. Once I'm physically in the edit and I've touched scenes myself, I'd love to share it with you. Hope you're enjoying this time off with your family. I'll talk soon. So then Blake was just like, no. She goes, I don't want to infringe on your time with your cut, of course. Don't feel the need to send me cut scenes. I was just excited to see. Regarding the dailies, none of the producers have access to the dailies, ? Is it just you, ? Blake, she's trying to throw you a bone here, babe. You don't need access to the dailies. Like, what are we doing? That's basically what he's saying. It's like, no, like, let me do my thing. Are you directing? I mean, at this point. So he's like, no, it's just me and Jamie that have access, so again, lets it go. Probably can like feel the tension. He's then writes her another message like on her birthday saying happy birthday. And he's like, coincidentally, like my audits are almost like done. I'm excited to get back and get back to filming because the strike was wrapping up at this point. And then he said that he was going to like send over some of the favorite scenes that he had done. Again, like, doesn't have to do this. So the same day that the SAG strike ended, the lawsuit says Baldoni, the studio, and producers were eager to resume production. Instead, they were met with an email from Lively's lawyer who sent Wayfarer an unsettling and unexpected 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Lively would return to work. The stunning list was drafted for the apparent purpose of insinuating or outright claiming that Baldoni, Heath, and others had engaged in sexually inappropriate conduct during filming. Nothing could be further from the truth. So then they just like show the correspondence, those bullet points that we went over in the last video. One of the things that they mention here, they go pretty deep into it, is one of the points that was regarding the intimacy coordinator. So Lively demanded that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times when Lively was on set. And it says, in fact, the intimacy coordinator had already been engaged during the first half of the production, so Wayfarer took no issue with this request itself, despite both Lively and her attorney knowingly insinuating that there was not one. So they're saying like, yes, they saw like a lot of these bullet points they saw and they're like, well, we already have this, so yes, we're going to agree to it. But then in like looking back, it's like, oh, okay, we see what was going on here. In reality, on or about March 20th, 2023, nearly 2 months before filming began, Baldoni met with the intimacy coordinator, and in early April of 2023, more than 6 weeks before production commenced, she was engaged. I think like hired. Lively was aware of this intimacy coordinator being hired, as was her attorney, as documented in May 8th, 2023, with emails between her and Wayfarer's attorney, within which Wayfarer provides her the intimacy coordinator approved nudity rider, followed by written confirmation of said approval. So they show like they're sending, like Wayfarer's legal team is sending to Blake Lively's legal team the attached nudity rider and all of the information. And this is like May 2008. They allege that there was no like acknowledgement. There was no, that contract wasn't signed. And then in July, they're following up confirmation that you've received the attached here. Please let me know if there's anything else that you need in this moment. Again, this is to Lively's lawyer from the Wayfarer lawyer being like, we still haven't heard from you in July. And then another email goes out. We still don't have the SAG start paperwork, which has been outstanding for over a month. Lastly, please confirm the last 2 payments are still being held in escrow. Thanks. In terms of like the whole like nudity rider scene of things. So see, that's what's like so frustrating. We didn't get to see this. We didn't know about this. It did very much seem like she was so unprotected on the set, when in reality, the Wayfarer lawyers were like chasing hers down to like make sure that they had like all their necessary documentation and like contracts and protection. They pretty much obliterate a lot of the claims that she had, like where also in the 17 bullet points that there needed to be like appropriate closed sets for nudity scenes and stuff. And again, they're like, yes, we're agreeing to it because we already adhered to this. And then they show examples of like what the set schedule looked like, that I guess would go out to like the production team, all of the actors, like, hey, like this is the calendar, this is the day, and it says on there like this is the closed set, and then it shows like time frames of what they're filming that day. And like every one of them that I saw where it involved like an intimate scene or like Blake, you know, like nude or whatever, it was closed set. They do touch on one that really like bothered me, which was the birthing scene that they talked about in the New York Times. So it says, in Blake's complaint, she acknowledges that during a scene, the birthing scene, she was mostly nude with her legs spread wide open in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia, and that there were non-essential persons present. This allegation is knowingly false. To begin with, to describe Lively as mostly nude and naked from below the chest down is dishonest. Lively was wearing black briefs and a pregnancy suit that covered her midsection, and her top was covered by a hospital gown. Her legal complaint deliberately suggests she was wearing a small piece of nude fabric glued around her genitalia, by stating this is generally what female actors use to provide some minimal privacy without disturbing the shot, leaving the reader to believe Lively was only wearing this small fabric. Lively was aware of this birthing scene as she was heavily involved in rewriting. That's the like not the shade in the lawsuit, the script, and gave creative input for this specific scene, again against the director's creative vision. Moreover, film footage clearly demonstrates that the set was not chaotic, as she alleged, and only essential individuals, example, film crew talent, were present for the scene and doing their jobs. Importantly, Lively knowingly and falsely alleges that the film's financier was present during these scenes, and insinuates he was watching her nude, which he had no desire to do, again with the shade. He was not even on set during the filming of that scene. He arrived later doctor, merely stopping by for a brief moment amid his busy business schedule, and was present during the filming of the scene in which Lively's character spoke to a female OBGYN doctor, a scene in which she is fully clothed. This is insane, right? Again, Justin has already also released the behind the scenes like footage, the clips of like how everything was like playing on the set. So for them to say this, it's like they have the backing of that. They've already released some. I'm sure they're just like waiting for court to like show all of this and let, you know, a judge and jury decide if the set was chaotic or not. But that's really interesting for that scene particularly, because again, I was really heated on that one too. I did. Like that does lead the reader to believe that it was icky, right? Like that he like came to like ogle at her. When it comes to the intimacy coordinator as well, they really touch on that multiple times. Like Justin wanted Blake to meet with the intimacy coordinator, you know, was constantly reaching out like during the process of finding one once he did, and then trying to coordinate a time for all of them to meet. So he said in the text message, just hired intimacy coordinator who I love. We'll set you up for a meeting, maybe FaceTime with her for next week for an introduction. Blake says, I feel good. I can meet with her when we start. Smiley face. Thank you though. So she says she doesn't want to. I took that as, okay, like she's just been somebody in the industry for a really long time, kind of knows like what that introduction might be, and as long as like they're on set, then she's fine like meeting the day of. Justin though like is screenshotting this to the producers being like, hey, like I just want you to know, like I did put this out here. She's not meeting with them yet, just so that you guys know for your records. Interesting that like, you know, he's like from the get-go like having like all these private correspondence, and then the producer's like, that's fine if she doesn't meet her now, like we'll just walk her through everything that you guys are thinking. So she just said basically like, Justin, you go ahead, do this meeting, and then whatever is said, relay it back to Blake, which he did. He also has like a photo of like the handwritten notes that he took during that meeting. And then after meeting with the intimacy coordinator, went to Blake and Ryan's penthouse to go over everything that was discussed then. So like she was on board knowing what was like suggested. And then they acknowledge the whole the montage scene, right? Again, one where I was like, what the hell? Like where he's like, oh, it smells good. There's context now. And he released that footage. I think that was important because that was one that was like really unsettling. When I read that, I was like, what a creep. Like that made him sound like such a creepazoid. So during that scene, she alleged that he was going off like the cuff and speaking in like out of characters, and that they're like speaking as Blake and Justin, which initially in this scene, he didn't want any communication. He just wanted to like do the scene where they're just like looking at each other, and it's, you know, like no movement. They're just like dancing and all of that. They're like, is the montage of them, like other scenes of them like falling in love and stuff. But this dancing scene specifically was just meant for them to like gazingly look into each other's eyes. And Blake was like uncomfortable by it. Like she's like, oh my God, we're just like staring at each other like psychos. And so it was like kind of her that was like, oh, maybe it'll look cute because like we're talking and we're like in our own world. Well, there's no script. Like that wasn't, again, there's no script for that. There was nothing written for that. So what else are you guys going to talk about? They ended up like talking about their own partners. And then in terms of like the whole smelling aspect of it, she's like, oh, I'm getting like spray tan on you or something like that. And then he's like, it's okay, it smells good. But he's still acting in, he can't just like sit there and have a conversation with her. Like they're filming, the cameras are around right now. So they're doing the scene. So he's still like in character, essentially getting the cuts that they need. This lawsuit even says like he at one point was pulled aside by the assistant director and was like, you need to get her to stop talking because we can't get the shot. So he's like trying to like still like do the actions and the movement to get the shot so he doesn't get in trouble with them. He is appeasing her. Like what a nightmare this would have been. What a nightmare in context, like seeing all this. So he released that shows exactly like how he explains it. So here's the clip of that.
Already.
And I felt it there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, that's not necessary.
Okay, you're at the bar, something's on the street.
And can you give us a couple cues of like they score? Just so everyone else around us is having a moment.
Is it as rambunctious as it was earlier on?
No, it's never going to be because we're in slow-mo, but just they're watching, you know, people are watching games. We see some, just some hands and things like that. Yeah, thank you.
Everybody good? And lay back. Background! Camera.
I may not always you
On our mark.
as long as there are love you.
That's fine.
Oh.
You never doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it.
Score!
God only knows what I need. If you should ever leave me, though I could still go on, believe me, the world could show nothing to me. So what good would living do me? God only knows what I'd be without.
Good one.
So this is why.
Watch out, watch out.
Oh, this person's very good number. I think this person is very close.
You can cut it.
Yeah.
If you should ever leave me,
Right across again where you
still go on, believe me. The world could show nothing to me. So what good would living do me? God only knows what I oh, God only knows what I'd be without you. God only knows. God only
Can we do a score? Can we do a score? Couple scores? While we're, yeah, great.
knows.
talking.
God only knows what I'd be without you.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the time. I'm never gonna find out.
God only knows.
And they win! I guess we don't shut up.
And Emily and I have we have these moments where
Staring. You just stare.
we've done it for like 5 minutes. It's like, I think you would find it terrifying. We just literally hear each other and
I'm not a sociopath.
and time stop.
Yeah.
But that's
Mhm.
just how it's been for us from the beginning.
No, we're like, oh my god, there's. They score again. No. It's like, oh my god, I forgot to tell you something else.
That's cute. You guys are really cute.
It's more than cute. They won the Stanley Cup.
I think it's amazing. And then let's just do one almost super close. Can you guys frame up on Sebastian, on you?
Yeah.
We'll just do our lips are right next to each other.
But I think you should start talking.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because don't give it to them. They want it. Don't give it to them.
Score.
Deep restraint.
Yeah. Do a little bit of restraint.
Right, come on back. And the couple by the bar walk towards us across. Everybody here, sorry. Ponytail lady.
And then
Cross this way. So take your name, cross this way.
I feel so nosy.
And my nose is so big.
I just hoping that we can address this. It's not too late. Just gotta shut down. We gotta call an insurance month and just deal with that. And
Cut.
just kidding.
That's why we have Denny's late too. Our noses are.
Let's go. So if you're like, oh, we missed some stuff.
Yeah.
They know each other better than that. She's not marrying someone she doesn't know with lots of red flags. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, okay, there's stuff that we don't know. Yeah. It feels. Yeah.
Take one step further, Catherine, please. Great, thank you.
Let's start on action. Let's just do everyone celebrated. There's a game going on action. Yeah. People passing.
Just be celebration. They've just scored. Ready and lay back.
I'll take it off. Like I'll try to kiss you and then I'll take it off.
Great.
I know you want that.
Yeah, you know I like my hats. Move off the sticker, good.
Yeah, this is a sticker.
Hey, no, there's no sticker.
Score!
All us love you. Darling, I'll make you sushi about it. God only knows what I need.
Let's score another.
If you should
Hear it on you today.
I'm probably.
It's good.
Well, it's not that. It's my body makeup.
show nothing to me, so what good would living do me?
And they win. They won.
All right, cut.
We got plenty.
Yes.
Slow motion. It's going to be a 17-minute reel.
Into my girl.
Like this and like this and like.
Like a sure and like
Take one more.
very simple stuff, but that not oral hour stuff. Just badass stuff. But there's no description.
And playback and background.
I may not always love you, as long as there are stars above you. You never
Direct, that's okay.
I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I need.
My heels get popped out of there.
Don't crop out her heel.
It's sparkle.
If you should ever leave me, the life would still go on, believe me. The world could show nothing to me. So what good would living do me? God only knows what I'd be without you.
There we go.
See?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Now it's better.
Spinning. Here we go.
Acting.
God only knows
Cut. We're good. Wake Lively spectacular.
So the lawsuit goes on to like allegedly say that like at every turn, Justin kind of felt like their banter that he felt initially was just as friends, like shooting the shit and like feeding off of each other, was then later used to like trap him and like those words and his action, and then just like spin it in like a highly damaging light. For example, in response to a proposal from the intimacy coordinator that Baldoni's character Ryle not orgasm after he satisfied Lily, Lively remarked, "I'd be mortified if that happened to me," personalizing the character's sexual act. Baldoni, following Lively's lead in what he understood to be an attempt to connect with and develop their characters, remarked that those had been some of the most beautiful moments between himself and his wife, and then they moved on. In another instance, as Lively and Baldoni Baldoni were developing their scenes, Lively said, "I don't want it to look like porn," and then offered up that she had never seen porn in her life, a very personal fact. Baldoni complimented her and said that's wonderful because unfortunately he was first exposed to it when he was only 10 years old and struggled with a porn addiction for a period of his life. He writes this openly in both of his books, addressing pornography as a societal problem. Anyone who knows or has done any research on Baldoni would have knowledge of this, and it can in no way be characterized as inappropriate, especially after opening the door to the discussion by disclosing something highly personal. At every turn, Baldoni was entrapped. Moreover, Heath, who had nothing to do with this exchange and had never had a porn addiction, was even mentioned porn in Lively's presence, was falsely and knowingly lumped into this accusation. I can see both sides, I guess. Like, I think, first of all, I think if she didn't read the damn book of the movie that she's starring in, why would they have ever assumed that she had read either of Justin Baldoni's books? That being said, yeah, if this is the way the conversation went and it was just like her, again, like I've never seen it. Like she is like offering and opening up the gates to a specific conversation. If it's something that you're uncomfortable and you're not wanting to talk about, like just like, let's just not say it. Let's not say it. I don't know. So this is what I did want to talk about. Lively continued with an outrageous and knowingly false allegation or suggestion that she was shown pornography or naked images of Heath's wife on set. This allegation knowingly and maliciously misrepresents an instant when, in connection with the birthing scene, Heath, at the director's request, attempted to show Lively a video that demonstrated the director's vision of the scene. This video, which ultimately was not shown to Lively, even though she stated she'd like to see it later, as she was eating at the time, is by all counts beautiful. Since Lively wanted to see it later, what she saw was the first image at the start of the video, which shows Heath's wife, himself, and their baby after his wife gave birth at home, in brackets, a natural birth or home birth. So there's a clip of that, him in the tub, her in the tub with the baby. This I am confused about, though, because at the time of, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, but that Blake's character gives birth, like her and Raoul are like not essentially together. She had like moved out because of like his abuse. So like, yes, he was like present for it, but why would that have ever been like a really like beautiful like home birth moment where they're like really close and intimate? Because like right after she shoots out the kid, she's like, I want a divorce, you know, like it ends with us. That's the whole, again, sorry, spoiler. So that didn't make sense to me that they would want that direction for that scene. And also, it just lost me. It lost me because this being like used as first of all, it lost me that Justin would even suggest that Jamie show that to Blake. Like she's given 4 children, one of which she had like just gave birth to like right before filming started. So she does not need some dude like showing her his wife's experience because she's like lived it. But yes, I do, in terms of like the pornography or whatever. Yeah, that's different. That's different. I wouldn't have wanted to see it. I would want to see like my friends like birthing videos. You know, I don't mind that. But like to just like be like, oh, for this scene, do you want to see like how like this woman delivered her kid? No, I would have been really pissed off. Not interested. And then they do talk about the OBGYN because in the New York Times article, it is alleged that it was Justin Baldoni just like called up his best friend and he was like an OBGYN. In fact, this guy is an actor. Yes, they are friends, but it says that his like accolades are he's like an award-winning Shakespearean trained actor with MFA in acting from UCLA. And in addition to appearing on numerous hit television shows, he's toured nationally with a Tony Award-winning acting company and attended Oxford's acting program on full scholarship. His accolades and performance speak for themselves. So again, context, very important. This is ridiculous, you guys. Like I feel like so duped. Okay, so let's wrap up. And like while we do that, we're going to go back to Ryan. Okay, so as things continue to come out every day, the internet sleuths be sleuthing. It's also a weird time because everybody is like on Candace Owens' side right now. Say what you will about Candace Owens. The woman is like insane. Like her work ethic is insane, like for creating content and like looking into things. While she really prides herself on being like super factual and like digging deep and getting like the nitty gritty, there are things that like I just don't I don't agree with. I definitely we don't like see eye to eye like politically at all, and also like just in terms of like allyship and like acceptance and stuff. But she's been digging deep into this, so then now it's like everybody's like, okay, we're gonna watch Candace's take on this, and she very much sees Ryan as the the villain here. And it's being heavily implied that this all started because Ryan is very insecure and did not like, you know, the connection and the friendship was like going between Blake and Justin. So as we know from those early stages of like pre-production and like pre-filming, things were really great between Justin and Blake. And I mean, we see that in the earlier text. We also see that they're away from their families. Ryan and Justin had a conversation about it, like wanting to try to like plan things so they could get back to each other as soon as possible. So during those early days where they're like getting really close and friendly, Ryan's not home. And so according to some people who were on set, everything was fine until he came back home. So when he comes back, he visits the set and he's able to see like how tight they are. And it's insinuated, it's speculated, that's the word I was going for, that at this point he gets into her ear and he's making issues out of situations that were completely taken out of context. So, you know, like maybe like in terms of like the intimacy coordinator and him like maybe grilling her and then her being like, well, I didn't meet with one, and not knowing that it was her who said like she was feeling fine about that whole thing. And then who knows, like maybe it's like her just like appeasing and like agreeing with like whatever he was conjuring up in her head, or him actually like having influence on her to also like feel these things and this like inappropriateness. To me, this makes a lot of sense also with the whole like personal trainer aspect of it, where like they call Justin to, you know, like the house, and then Ryan's able to like puff his chest out and stick up for his wife, just, you know, kind of like taking something and over exaggerating and making it something that it isn't, so that he could step in and all of a sudden, like, you know, like I'm the husband, like reasserting his dominance and like that he cares, you know, about her and he's her defender. Did we talk about in terms of that scene with the lifting? Did I mention? Oh my God, I feel like I didn't mention it. So if I did mention it, sorry, I'm repeating myself. If I didn't, this is important. But they show in here for the lawsuit that they have evidence and proof that there was a scene that he did have to lift her. And if you remember in the New York Times article, she said there was no such scene. So that's why they said that this was like all made up and that he had no business asking because there's no scene. When in fact there was a scene. And when she took over like her input in writing and editing, because she takes over the editing, we'll see this in like 1 second, that scene no longer existed. But they did show, like he did show like the script where that says that in the scene. Again, like this is so crazy to like see all of this. So yeah, I can see this in terms of like the chemistry like of Ryan. This does make sense. This, I'm not saying that this is true, but like looking at everything, it does make sense like for him to like come on set, see the chemistry of these two. And I mean, like say what you will about the movie, like I said, I did end up watching it. My expectations were very low going into it because I've heard a lot of people be like, oh, the movie was shit anyways, but I liked it. It made me sad like watching like at the end, like to just like now realize like this whole movie like is completely stained, regardless though of if it's anybody's cup of, or if it's not everybody's cup of tea rather. The chemistry between those two was like it's undeniable. So I could see like Ryan coming on and being like, what the hell? He also met Blake on a movie set, knows that like people can fall in love. And so yeah, it would make sense that he was just like come in and be like, nope, I gotta make this change. And then I think he just like kind of like subtly like mentally manipulated and kind of like did it. That this is just my opinion, you know, allegedly. And then Ryan was like, no, we're gonna take over this project and I'm just gonna like keep encouraging you because like he knows that that's what Blake wants to do, be taken seriously. And it was just like, yeah, you do it. Like put your foot down, put your demands out there. Like if they want you, they're going to do it. And I found out that Ryan did this before. I think it was with Deadpool actually. So like he completely took over the project after and like the remaining ones after he had like disagreements with like the director of the first one, allegedly. Was it the director, producer? I don't know. Something he's already taken over. So he knows he can do this. And honestly, like to wrap this up, like I'm like, I can't believe the audacity of these two. Like, cause after all of these demands, after the accusations, after like them being like, okay, like Wayfarer, the teams, Justin, Jamie, wanting to do what they need to do to move forward and having to just like act and still correspond is like being like, hey, and like more demands are coming through. So at the end of the day, they took over everything. Like literally did. There's proof that text exchanges between Justin and his editors that I'll have them on the screen, but then like I said, I'll have everything like linked for you guys to see. But it basically is just like, so like she's taken over everything. I can't even see the edit. The editors are like, what? And then it's like, yeah, she hired her own editing team. She wants to, edit her version, and then we've got ours. So they got to an agreement where Justin would have his edit of the movie, she would have hers, and then they would have it like released to like like an audience score, like who could score it and see which one came out on top. Justin's won, I think it was 3 times. So his came out, it was like 93 or something like that %. I don't know. We'll have the stats up on here for you. And then Blake had her first had one edit. Justin's was higher. Then went back and re-edited to try to like get it higher, because allegedly she had said in a correspondence that if his was higher, then she would just like let it go and then they would use his edit and whatever. The second one, when she came back and tried to make adjustments to make hers like higher than Justin's, his still scored higher. And these people who are watching it didn't know, like, okay, this is Justin's, this is Blake's, this is just like how the audience perceived it. I'm so interested to like see what his was, because although she said that they would just go with his if it scored higher, that's not the case. They used hers, completely ostracized him from like all of the marketing junkets, or the press junkets, marketing, and at the film premiere. It's so insane. It is so insane to look at all of this and see this. And then after all this, after they like go back and like completely disregard that his editing scored higher than Blake's, Blake had the audacity to reach out to Justin and offer Ryan's editing company Maximum Effort to do the marketing edits as well. So like, we're just going to say, you know what, we're just going to take it over. This is a text message between her and him. She says, Max Effort is on board to help as much or as little as you want. Let me know. We have a great group over here who can help supplement and do work that Sony won't, so we can just hand it to them between our collective resources. He says, okay, I'll push to hire Max Effort. She goes, it is all led by me, Ryan, and Blank, so we'll make sure to weed out any lame ideas. They don't need to hire. So I think he's like, oh, I'm going to push it for whatever. She goes, no, they don't need to. And he goes, part of why I didn't want to die on this hill. I don't know what that's in reference to. She goes, it's me, Ryan, and Blank. We work for free for the family. It's mafia style on this. Oh, like, so they don't need to hire. Okay, right. Sorry. Yes. So they don't need to hire, being like, we work for free for family. It's mafia style on this. That implies that, okay, hey, maybe with all of these delays and like all of these added costs, we're going to save a little bit of money here with the editing of the marketing. And she says that like free for family. And it turns out that's not the case. The Wayfair team states that this was another situation where Blake made a suggestion and then it ended up costing them over budget. So they had the edit allocated budget. This is what they're implying. And she said, we'll do it for free, but then ended up billing them. And it was way higher than what they were going to pay for oh my God. I cannot believe. I just don't even know. I don't even know what to think anymore. Like, this now just seems like such a calculated like hit piece to me, and I don't understand why. Like, I don't know what the end goal was here when you knew like all of these receipts were gonna come out, and I feel so stupid for going so hard and believing it. So in conclusion, obviously we know I feel stupid. I feel got. There were a couple points that I was eager to hear about that I think were intentionally left out from the response, and that was the allegations of Justin talking about his religion to an uncomfortable degree and like telling Blake that he like speaks to her dead father. And like I said in the first video, I was curious. I really wanted to see what they were going to say about that, because on the last video I did this, I don't know if you remember, but I spoke to someone in the summer while all of these rumors were swirling who had mentioned that like somebody on the set told them about the religion aspect specifically, and that was before any of this came out. So this was in the summer that I knew about this, and then in December when I saw one of those bullet points of her like conditions of returning back having to do with like the religion, and then like talking to her dead father and stuff like that, I was like, oh okay, like crazy. Like, I already believed the source, but that it was just wild, like to see that. So then I was like wanting, like I was even like further invested to see like how they would respond to it. And like from what I've seen, like it's just like it just hasn't been acknowledged. I think it was like briefly touched on that it was like he's proud of his beliefs, and then felt like that was used to like villainize like his religion. So I don't know. yeah, they never got into like why people felt uncomfortable. So I'm very curious about that. I also wanted like a little bit of acknowledgement about the comments of like young Lily and Atlas during the scenes. Their like intimate scene. Blake talked about Justin saying after it was done that it was hot and did they practice before, which I thought was really inappropriate. I guess we would be able to see from like the behind the scenes footage of how that all went. They did say that like before all of this, everybody had an amazing working relationship, loved working with Justin, specifically the character of Lily, like after she was done with all of her scenes, you know, reached out via text message later just to like thank him for the opportunity and saying like it was like the greatest experience that she could have ever had, like for like her first like major film, and that he was like nothing but like a very supportive and fantastic director. So we did hear, I guess, like from their relationship, but then they didn't talk about that, and maybe it is because he did say that and it just didn't look good like in context of everything else. So yeah, I'm gonna link all of that to for you guys down below, the lawsuits and everything, and then the website that Justin and his team have, like with even more receipts, so that you can go through and just like, I don't know, kind of feels like you're more like involved in like seeing it for yourself a little bit more, so you're not just taking my word for it, because apparently we don't want to do that around here, because I just spit shit. Listen, it was the New York Times and I was not the only one who got, okay? And I'm coming here to talk about it again to try to make the situation right based on what we have now. And this evidence looks really strong. Like, in my opinion, Blake and Ryan are just like, they are so past the point of being able to back out of this. At first, I was like, when I saw the lawsuit against New York Times and they were mentioned so much, I was like, oh my God, no, you guys have to admit defeat, like wave the white flag. This is not gonna end up good, especially how confident Justin's lawyer is. Like, he's a pit bull out there. He is saying things like he is not afraid. Clearly they have the receipts. We've now seen a lot of them. I can't even imagine how many they haven't shared that they would bring to like trial. So yeah, I don't know. But at this point now, it's like, I feel like Blake and Ryan, like, the damage is already done. I don't even think that there is anything that they could do to even get Justin and company to agree to like back out of this. Maybe they could, you know, try to like really like lean into how sensitive he is. He seems like a very sensitive guy, and like maybe, you know, big on like forgiveness. So I don't know if they wanted to like apologize and make nice. I don't see that happening. But yeah, it is just a disaster. And if there is any way, Blake girl, for you to jump ship here, if I were you, I'd be tossing that life vest on, putting that little lifesaver out in the water, and just swimming as far away from the ship as I could, boo. Because this is, this is going to be very interesting to see how it unfolds. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. I'm just going based off of everything here right now, presented from the evidence and the receipts. Not speculating here. Although we did think that we had the receipts before, okay, it's fine. We now have more context, and yeah, it's just a shit show. So we'll see how this unfolds. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know though, guys. Anyways, I'm spiraling. That's it for me today. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It means the world to me. I love and I appreciate you. Again, thank you so much, Fume, for sponsoring today's video. You guys don't forget to either click the QR code or go to tryfume.com/sherrilyndale and get a free Fume topper with your journey pack order today. And riddle answer. Quick reminder, the riddle is, what has one head, 1 foot, and 4 legs? And the answer is a bed. And I'm pretty sure we have done this one before, right, guys? I don't know. I still didn't remember it, so it feels new to me. Can't wait to see your guys' answers. Can't wait to see you in the next video. I will miss you terribly until then. Make sure to love each other, love yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye.